Hello, and welcome to another episode of Speak, Film, and Enter, a podcast where we review and rank movies. I'm Nate.
And I'm Dylan.
And I'm Adam.
Today, we're reviewing the brand new horror movie from Jordan Peele, his third movie as a director, I believe, which is just singularly titled Nope.
Indeed.
And if you're on YouTube, it's got the crazy cloud in it that's behind Dylan's head. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the movie or maybe need a refresher, Adam, can you tell them what it's about?
The residents of a lonely gulch in inland California bear witness to an uncanny and chilling discovery.
Ooh, there we go. All right. Concise, to the point.
Yeah.
Easy.
And yeah, I was gonna say I was actually gonna say that the advertising for this, I feel like, has been on point since the beginning. This was on our list of most anticipated. The teaser trailers, very well done. I mean, Jordan Peele, he's got his niche now, or his kind of formula, and it's like a little bit of spooky, a little bit of horror, a little bit of mind-bendy stuff, some social commentary, and the trailers and just the marketing for this was fantastic. The way that it same as it was, I think, for Us and for Get Out too.
Yeah, totally. And I remember, I think Us for me was the best marketing campaign. At least there wasn't much of one for Get Out because it sort of took everybody by surprise. But I remember being just pumped for Us and just whatever. They had something going with the score.
The score was like an altered version of I Got Five on it, like the classic hip hop song. And I will note that began a trend which continues to this day of soundtracks and trailers having altered versions of popular songs. Like, it's very pop, like
the recent Wakanda Forever trailer.
Once you start looking for it, you're gonna notice it in like every other trailer. Like they can't. The studios cannot help themselves.
From last year. Last Night in Soho from last October was a perfect example of that. They had an amazing trailer.
Yeah, no, a bunch of them. I don't know if it's one specific guy who's making those or like one company but they must just be killing it, because ever since that trailer for Us, that has been a thing that I have noticed. But anyways, all right, so yeah, Nope. So, and we decided this is going to be a full spoiler review. Yes, are we assuming that a lot of people are going to see this, and it's kind of hard to talk about without giving away what happens. So we've agreed that this will be a spoiler review, FYI. Yeah,
definitely.
So buckle up.
Buckle up indeed, because if you have noticed anything from the reviews and the reception of this film, it's very polarizing. And it seems like that polarization has made its way to the Speak, Film, and Enter crew.
It does. Well. I was curious after I saw this. We can start our way. I did not love this. I went in very excited for it, but also I really dislike it when all three of us don't like a movie. I feel like it makes for kind of a dull show, unless we're just sort of enjoying ripping something to shreds like House of Gucci. That can be kind of fun. But for something like this that I really wanted to like, and I really like Jordan Peele, and my opinion on him has not changed at all. This just felt a little messy to me, and it felt a little emptier than what I'm used to for his movies.
But almost like the vacuum of space.
Exactly like the vacuum of space.
Almost like the wide plains of the gulch in which this is set.
I don't know if you're getting at how it's supposed to feel empty because they're very isolated, but I would say that's not a good thing if that's the intention. But I don't think it was. But I guess when I saw this, I was at least hoping. I was like, God, I really hope at least one of the other guys likes this, because I don't want to go into a Jordan Peele movie and just have us across the board give it a, no pun intended, I just walked right into this, just give it a nope.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm with you, Nate. I think the biggest thing that makes me like not enjoy it as much as I wanted was the expectations, right? Because of how good Get Out was, because of how good, for the most part, Us was. I love the formula. I love the style that he goes with, like that, like you said, a little bit of creepy, a little bit of supernatural, a little bit of, comedy and social commentary and all that stuff, like you said, Dylan. But it's just the expectations were set too high, I think. And this is his third movie, and people are praising him and considering, like, thinking he's the best horror director right now, and it's just like you can't heap that kind of praise when I don't know. It was empty. It was very. There just wasn't much going on that I enjoyed towards the end, and I felt like that's just where the expectations. I was expecting this big third act to be this crazy weird twist and all this stuff, and it just kind of fell flat for me.
Oh man, I thought this movie was fire almost from the very beginning.
All right.
It is audacious. It is self-confident. It does not give a bleep. And I just thought, like, I mean, it's dark. It had, like, the horror sci-fi genre is one of my favorite genres, and it is hard to pull off in a way that is actually like a memorable way. Oftentimes it's done in a dumb way, or it's just like, it's so easy. There's so many things to trip up on. And this had so many things that I've never seen before in this genre. I mean, it took the UFO like trope movie and like flipped it in such a clever way by making the UFO an animal and making it be more predatory. And it's not about abductions. It just literally wants to eat. I loved that. Like once that kind of like got through my head, I was like, yes, hell yeah. I really liked you know what? Like I liked there were a few moments that I thought were top notch horror or sci-fi or both. The stuff with Gordy, and that was top-notch horror. That scene in the middle when you're there with the kid and there's no music and there's no anything and you're just under the table with that kid. I'm sorry, but that the entire audience was like holding its breath, at least in my theater when that happened. The scene when we briefly get to see what's happening to the people that get sucked into the
really good.
Into the monster. So unsettling. I've been thinking about that ever.
That was one of the most claustrophobic scenes I've ever seen.
I saw it yesterday, and I just like, oh God! I was thinking about it today at work, and how creepy it is, and how claustrophobic it is, while also being so simple. It's just like people being sucked up into like a really thin, and then like you just see something that kind of looks like a tooth or something, and then like another thing that might be like and then that's it. And the rest is just up to your terrible imagination. The way that you could hear the people screaming as it passed over you, I love that. Well, I've never seen that before. When it's sitting over the house, and it like all the people are screaming, and then it kills all of them, and then it starts dumping their remains and their blood over the house, and you got blood coming down the windows. I mean, oh my God! Like just the audacity.
There's so much cool stuff in this movie. There's so much cool stuff in this movie.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a monkey kill a whole bunch of TV actors on stage, and yeah, I'm gonna have the ship be a monster, and it's gonna like what's the word I'm looking for? Like expel like not only like the stuff that was in their pockets, but also like the body parts and the blood. I mean, just horrifying. Like I don't know. I saw so many stuff that I've never seen before, and like. I don't know. I understand that, like, okay, the script and the character work and whatnot is not as tight as Get Out. I'll totally granted that. And Us has the advantage of having like an entire family, like parents and kids trying to get through it. So naturally, there's a lot more going on there. Plus, you have Lupita Nyong'o's incredible performance as the mom. Like, okay, right. And this was not that. You have Daniel Kaluuya as the lead, but he's very reserved and soft-spoken and shy, and a lot of his acting is internal and kind of blank face, kind of what's going on in his head. And then you have the complete opposite, which with his sister, who's a live wire, who's cracking jokes, who can't stop. And I get that is not as deep as his other two movies, like main protagonists. But I just had a fun time. When the creepy stuff started happening, I had a good time. This made me feel like I felt when I saw Signs for the first time. Like, oh my God, like not only are they showing us the monsters, but they're fighting the monsters. They're fighting these aliens. Like, I'm here for it. I honestly, and the more I've thought about it since then, I liked it even more. I went and saw it with our buddy Mason, and afterwards we had a great discussion about what did the Gordy stuff mean and like how did it all tie together. And I don't think that this movie does come together in the nice, neat puzzle piece, everything fits together way that Get Out does. But I didn't care because I was just mostly from that first scene to the end, I was just like,
So
I was
and
like, in the
I think
audience,
that's my biggest problem is like there's so much cool stuff in this movie. Like while it was happening, the blood pouring down on the house was really interesting and really crazy and wild, and all of that. Like a lot of little pieces in this movie are fantastic by themselves. It's when I looked at the movie as a whole project, I was just disappointed overall. It just didn't wow me as much as I was expecting it to. And I'm not putting that on like the success of his other movies or who Jordan Peele is and the fact that he wrote and directed it. It's just like I looked at it and was like, oh, okay, well, what was that? That's fine. That's good. But it wasn't like, that's amazing. You know what I mean? That's where I sit with it.
Yeah. So, I mean, Dylan, I actually agree with a lot of the things you just said that you loved about this movie. This movie is insane.
Can't even get you to a 3, huh?
This movie is insanely creative.
Yeah.
And Jordan Peele has an eye for visuals unlike most other people. I mean, particularly, you mentioned the blood coming down and on the house. For me, the way he used those like what do you even call those things? The air guys, the
inflatable air.
Yeah, the like gas station or like the car wash,
the wacky wavy inflatable arm play.
Yeah. The way he used those, that was inspired. That was just absolutely brilliant. The way he set that up. For me, there were two big issues, and it was Adam kind of brought it up, and you kind of did too. I mean, I don't think there's a memorable character in this movie. I think they were pretty much all very one-dimensional to me. I didn't care about any of them really. And I also think he tried to jam just like too much social commentary into one story. I mean,
Interesting.
I could have done without any of the monkey stuff. I think it
As
does
cool as it was.
Sort of connect thematically, but like, I don't know. The adult version of that character is not remotely interesting enough for me to look back on that as some type of like foundational moment. Like Steven Yeun, I think was like pretty good, but I thought his character was not very well written. And because I didn't care about him as an adult, this flashback to this weird traumatic thing as a kid didn't really do anything for me other than just kind of put the brakes on the crazy cloud stuff.
Interesting.
So that's kind of where I felt this. And then by the time I got to the end of the movie, which I do think the third act is all very well staged and paced out and set up. And I liked basically everything once they kind of put their plan together and try to execute it. I was just beyond really caring once we reached that point.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, I can see where you're coming from. Like the character work isn't there. I wouldn't agree they're completely one-dimensional, but I would agree that they're less deep than his other movies. But I thought the Gordy stuff related not only in like thematically with the idea of like a predator and you can't tame a predator, you can only make an agreement with it, and like the way that everyone is hiding on the soundstage is similar to the way that everyone tries to hide from the monster or the alien. Like, and I also think that it did make sense that his character, if he survived that's such a traumatic thing that he's going to think about that every day, every week, every year for the rest of his life. And he's going to think, why did I survive? Why did that happen? First off, why did I survive? And at the end, when it looks like the monkey's almost reaching out to touch him, like, was it going to be friendly to me? Is there something about me that was different than all the other victims? Like, it's a very like interesting, like, trauma response, which is then you see him as an adult, and it makes sense that he would think like, yeah, I bet I can feed this monster in the sky and get away with it. Like, I bet I can survive this because look at what happened when I was 11 and I survived that, and that was a dangerous, like, and the fact that he makes like a whole like shrine to it. I thought that the thing with the shoe standing upright was super cool. I like that wasn't directly explained. It was kind of just
very good
left
visual
out there.
Yeah.
And I would say that, because this is a horror sci-fi, I think that I've seen so many horror movies where there's something very unsettling or like gross or like that happens, and it really serves no purpose. And you're just like, okay, like either like it was just thrown in there because the writer or the director thought, oh man, no one's ever seen something this messed up before.
We need a spectacle.
Right. And like, so I've seen a lot of horror movies that had moments like that really turned me off and were like, ugh, like, okay, dude, like click next. But
right.
I didn't feel that way with this one. It felt like it did serve a purpose, and it was very unsettling and like a horror. Like I've never seen that before. I've seen a lot like the idea of that going down and how much of it they decided to show us and not show us. Like that whole thing I felt like was leaning heavy into the horror side, and then the stuff in the present day was obviously leaning heavy into the sci-fi side. I liked the thing where it only eats you if you make eye contact with it. Like,
yeah,
again, kind of like running with the theme of recent movies like Bird Box and Quiet Place. And, it's like, oh, one of your senses has to be removed, or, like, how do you get around the alien? And I like the idea that you like can't make eye contact with it. That was kind of neat. And then mostly, even if they were a little one note, I liked the brother and sister duo, and I liked Angel as kind of a fun comedic kind of just schlub who gets kind of roped into everything. My least favorite character was actually the expert guy that they bring in, Antlers Holst.
Yeah, the videographer.
Oh, I totally forgot about that guy.
Just because like he has a really cool voice, which Jordan Peele uses in a great way, but his character seemed kind of out of the blue, and then also like the way that he goes out felt very quick, and like there was not enough setup for that, and it was very much like, oh, okay, like that part I definitely could see like a little messy there and like not tethered to the rest of the story. But he also gave us what I thought was one of the comedic highlights of the film when he shows up with his camera that you have to turn, and oh god, I gotta remember their names. And Emerald turns to OJ and is just like, I told you I was gonna get a guy with a non-electric camera. They just
that was funny.
Each other up, like a little bit of personality. Like she cracked me up the whole movie, and he was good in a reserved role. Where then when he did start to open up, or when he decides like, no, we're gonna like get this thing, like it resonated with me because it was like, oh, okay, he's not just like he's got stuff going on, and he does have personality. He just has to like bring it out. And, let's not forget that the very first scene that we meet him, his dad dies. I mean, like, of course he would want to take down this thing, or at least not like run. Like, dude, that thing killed my dad. Like, you remember like the first scene when he hit him with all the quarters? That thing straight up killed my dad. Like, no, like I'm staying and I'm going to like fight this thing. Like, I don't know. I think there were some good themes of like family pride and like, not running. And I don't know. I just mostly, even if it wasn't as deep as Get Out or Us, I just had such a good time. I had such a good time. Yeah.
I'm glad you did. I wish I liked this more. I should say too, I didn't laugh that much. A lot of the jokes felt really like, I don't know, ill-timed to me or something. Like it constantly felt like, okay, the movie's going this way, and then like, oh, here's a sort of weird joke that I just didn't feel like was in the right place. I don't know. I just constantly felt like this movie was going in a direction that it didn't.
You felt off balance?
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. It felt off balance and messy to me, and I don't know. It felt very disappointing, and maybe some of that is due to expectations. And I will say, I think from like a technical perspective, and I already said this movie's insanely creative. I think it's really well made. I didn't even mention just the general premise of the cloud not moving. And the thing hiding in there, that's brilliant. This is one of those things where like,
can we get a second to just talk about the sound though?
Yes, the score was amazing. This is so well made. It just felt like everything but the story. I just didn't like the story.
That's what I mean. Really, like, I was just left with an overall impression of disappointment versus being like, everything in this movie is awesome. Like, there's
Adam,
a lot
you're
of
letting me down so hard right now. You're the action movie guy. You're the spectacle guy. You're the guy who's totally willing to just like have a good time and not care about the story. And here you come in taking Nate's side, like, honestly, man, listen, I'm gonna get tickets to go see this again in like IMAX or like Dolby, and I'm taking you with Adam. Okay. And like I'm gonna force you to give this another shot. Okay, because
that's fair. I might like it the second time around more, but I'll give you this too. Like the people I went with, they said at the end, the final like maybe like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, when it transforms, they were like, "Oh, I didn't need that." They're like, I was kind of disappointed by that. And I was like, I didn't mind it at all. I thought that was pretty cool.
I like that quite a bit. Kind of got into a Lovecraftian vibe, a little bit reminiscent of like the Endless. I should also say I really like the idea of incorporating this sort of sci-fi horror concept with like a Western setting.
Yeah.
And just the way he used that little sort of touristy town thing, whatever you call it, that like theme park or whatever.
Yeah.
And that I can't remember what that said, like kind of the
out yonder.
Over yonder, maybe.
Over yonder.
That was brilliant as well. He has a great eye for incredible visuals. Like I said, I think this movie was really, really well made. I think it was just lacking in the story department, which for me is kind of the most important part.
It's also 2 hours and 10 minutes long, which is
it did feel long.
It felt long,
but
I don't know.
If you're not enjoying yourself, most movies feel long.
Yeah, I don't know where I'd cut stuff. But I feel like it probably could have been a tight 2 hours or even slightly shorter than that. But again, I don't know exactly what you're cutting besides maybe some of the stuff with the videographer guy, or maybe some early intro stuff like introducing like his sister or something. I don't know.
Like I said, I mean, I'll admit that story-wise and like character depth-wise, that it wasn't as strong as I would have hoped. So if I could re-edit this and I would have made it slightly longer, and I would have had more with Steven Yeun's character, and maybe like a little more with like the brother-sister dynamic. Like I like the thing with the memory where like, when he wouldn't let me come with, and you were training my horse, and like the whole like eye thing, like I wanted more of that. I wanted more brother-sister depth, so that at the end you can tell how much they really love each other. But when I talk about how that stuff didn't work for me or wasn't as sharp, in my mind, I'm still giving that stuff like a B-, and everything else was like a straight A. So for me, it evens out. It goes up, right? Like the curve lifts the lack of story depth or whatever for me. But that was just, that's how I felt about it. But I will acknowledge, like, it is not... if also, Nate, you mentioned this, that you felt like there was a lot of social commentary, and I felt like this didn't have as much obvious social commentary as Get Out and Us did. Well, I feel like the social commentary was more kind of in the peripheral.
When I say there's a lot, I think he just tried to, I should say, there are different areas where I think he's trying to say different things, or he's trying to sort of like mash some things together where it felt cleaner and more focused, the social commentary did in Get Out and Us. And I specifically look at things like kind of the voyeuristic aspects of this movie, and kind of the sort of like get rich quick, and like they're just watching this thing and like kind of trying to be the first ones to make money off of this. And then sort of weaving that in with like Hollywood history, and then like the weird, like the Predator thing, and like with and having a backstory like that for Steven Yeun's character is not so much what I take issue with. It's like the fact that it is what it is. Like a monkey killing a bunch of people on a set of a 90s TV show is so specific and so strange. And then I didn't feel that coming through to the rest of the movie in a meaningful way. And that's where I say there's like kind of almost too much, because it felt like things going in opposing directions.
It's hard to wait. Like,
it didn't feel as focused.
That's fair
in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, today I was thinking kind of about other, like for how I feel about the movie with its strengths versus what I perceived as its weaknesses. I kind of feel like this is a little bit of a parallel to Robert Eggers' The Northman, where it's like a director who's already had some hits, and those hits are really cerebral. They're really put together. They've got like strong themes, and they like drive home their points. And then that director is given a massive budget and basically like free will to do whatever he wants. And he creates more of a spectacle as opposed to a tightly constructed thing. And that can feel, depending on what you're expecting, as either a huge letdown or like oh man, he's really like, going for it.
Popping off. He's really getting
it. And so I did feel a little bit of that. Like, I think
that's fair.
But mostly what I felt like I was 13 watching Signs for the first time and geeking out about scary aliens.
If a movie can capture that feeling, that's always...
I love that feeling. Horror sci-fi is, when it can be pulled off, is maybe my favorite like subgenre. And I just felt like, again, in that subgenre, he brought in this movie things that I had never seen before. And I really liked it. So
one piece I did enjoy is per the picture behind Dylan is the flags in the air, It felt a little like what is it, Jaws 2, where they shoot it and they attach it to the barrels, or is that Jaws 1?
That's Jaws 1.
It's definitely Jaws 1.
The
a way
yellow
to track
barrels
the
are
monster.
the way to track the monster and find where it is, and like it's just sitting in the cloud, and you just see this little tiny rope, and you're like, it's right there. It's right in there. Like I thought that was cool.
Yeah. More visual brilliance.
Yeah.
I liked the fake out with the kids dressed as aliens in the barn.
Dude, that was got so the
audience. My audience fell for that hard. Like, I
love too just the comedy of how that bit ends. It's just like he just gets scared. He's like, and
punches him
right the kid, and the kid falls. It's like, what the fuck, dude? And he's like, what did you think was gonna happen? Like,
yeah, lucky you didn't get shot. Being rural folk, I imagine that he had a gun, but they never even used a gun. I think maybe they just realized it would have been pointless against that monster. But I was expecting at some point, like, okay, these are like, rural cowboy, like I bet they've got mad guns around. But then it was like, okay, yeah, that's not going to work anyways. So whatever. I thought it was interesting how the movie was broken up into like the title cards with like the names of the horses. Mm-hmm. And then the names of like Gordy, and then the name of the alien that they give it, Jean Jacket. Like, I thought that was just an interesting way. And, as opposed to part 1 or part 2 or whatever, it's more just like the movie is organized in the sense of like who the victim or who the monster, like it's very animal. It's focused on like the animals, on like the creatures, which I thought was just different.
Well, you're just trying to understand the nature of the animals that you're around, and while some of them might be predators, aka Gordy, and we don't treat them as such, and some of them might be prey animals, aka the horses, even though they're incredibly dangerous if you're not careful, which they show right away at the beginning. Like you have to have a good appreciation for what you're dealing with. Just like they said, you don't make agreements with predators. Like you make agreements with the predator. You don't like stare at it and challenge it. Much like the horse. Like the horse is still a predator to some extent because you don't stare at it because it bucked right away when it got shown itself. So
and like like the thing about every animal has rules. Like that's kind of a neat thing to think about. I don't know. I liked all that stuff. Even while I was watching it, I was like, this feels a little messy, but I don't care. And then when I walked out, I kept talking. I was like, yeah, I really don't care. Like I'm hard. Let's get the don't care stamp and just put it right over all those.
All right.
So that's where I'm at. I actually want to see it again for sure.
Okay.
I guess I'm guessing that both of you would rank this as your third favorite Jordan Peele behind Easily. Get Out and Us.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Us more than once.
Oh, okay.
So I'd have to watch that again because I remember being disappointed in the ending, but I remember also being like, what happened? So I gotta, you mean, because it's a little strange. So I'd have to go back and then compare it, but
I would put it in between. I still think Get Out is better. It's just so tight and well done and just blew everybody away with good reason when it came out. But I liked this. I think I liked this more than Us, maybe just because it was tailor-made for kind of what I'm into. And I did like Us. I think I still have that as a 3.5 or maybe a 4. But
I should watch Us again. I remember, like Adam, not really liking the way everything concluded and like the last 15 to 20 minutes, but I loved it before then.
Yeah, so, it was really interesting before that.
Mm-hmm.
We maybe we rewatch Us and have like a episode where we kind of go back and look at it again because I do want to re-examine it. But yeah, the ending just felt so kind of unrealistic. Like, okay, so all these people have been living like underground, like all these people, and like everyone has a doppelganger, and then like they all get out and they're all murderous, and then they form like a Hands Across America thing. Like there were parts where they're like, whoa, like that's
I feel like he was
really
referencing some very like esoteric stuff that I just didn't get.
Yeah, some like cult stuff or what that was supposed to represent, but
I don't know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Should we move to the star ratings?
Yeah, let's do it.
Perfect. We'll be right back. All right. I can volunteer to go first, actually.
Go for it.
All right. So let me pull up where I'm at. I'm giving this a 2.5. However, I am between a 2.5 and a 3. I wanted to say 3 to go with it because that was our mark is like that's a good movie. Good. If you go back to that thing, and 2.5 is okay, and then 2 is not not good. Mm-hmm. I'm more of like a 2.75, I think, because that overwhelming feeling of just like disappointment, general disappointment of like, okay, it was like, that was a good movie, but it wasn't like, didn't blow me away. That's where I reside with it. But that's usually a 3 for me. I think that's only because of the expectations I had going in, and just like it was going to be this weird sci-fi, like scary movie with Jordan or with Daniel Kaluuya, and I don't remember the name of Emerald. Keke Palmer.
Keke Palmer.
Keke Palmer.
Yeah, like going to be great acting, going to have a lot of fun with it. It's the Jordan Peele's mind is just so strange, and he comes up with these great concepts. I can't wait for it. And then it was just like, oh, okay, it was that. You know what I mean? So yeah. I'm sitting at a 2.5, excuse me. Wow, 2 out of 5. But if I go see it again, it may bump up. I may appreciate more things. I do, like I said, there's a lot of great visual stuff. There's a lot of cool moments in this movie, but the overwhelming feeling of disappointment is what put me at a 2.5. So that's what I got.
I'll go next. We can end this on a high note. I'm also giving this a 2.5. I mean, technically and creatively, this movie is probably like a 4.5, but I just didn't really. I left the theater having not enjoyed myself really. So I couldn't get it up to a 3 if I didn't really have a very good time with it. So 2.5 was kind of the highest I could go. And I don't think it should go any lower than this. I mean, like I've listed many very good things about this. I just didn't connect at all with the story or the characters. And it just kind of left me exhausted by the time we reached the third act, which I think was done very well, but I just didn't really care by that point.
That's fair.
All right. And then, I will go next. And I did think that this was pretty great. So I'm going to give this a strong 4 stars. If I go and watch it again, it could probably creep its way up. I just had I was entertained. I was scared. Like I said, the unsettling stuff has stuck with me, but like I'm okay with it because like I just felt like it was so well done. I loved everything visually. I really liked in the third act. I loved the design of the alien. It kind of reminded me of the end of Midnight Special, where they really go for it, and you're like, whoa,
I really like
okay,
Midnight Special.
Right? You're like, okay, like I see you, and I really liked the design of it. I liked the way that it ended. Like you mentioned, the staging, how they kind of try to like get that picture, and how they go into it, and just when she's just ripping across the desert in the motorcycle, whenever he's ripping across in the horse, whenever anything that's going across the desert at high speed, I thought was great. I'll be honest, I was hoping when that dude pulled up on the motorcycle from TMZ at the end, I was hoping that was going to be a little better, like either a more interesting character. Like I thought it'd be like someone who already knew what was going on.
Well, he had a fucking reflective helmet. Yeah.
Right? Like I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like this guy knows what's going on. He's here to like steal their thunder and like take a picture before them or something. So I was a little disappointed in that. And like I said, I think that the characters are a little more thin, but I still really liked him. I'm a huge Daniel Kaluuya fan. His performance worked for me. Soft-spoken, few funny lines here and there. I like Keke Palmer. She was just a live wire from the very beginning. I don't know. I had a really good time, a really original, unflinchingly creative, and like just so self-confident in itself. Like at this point, Jordan Peele, like as soon as a movie starts, he's like, oh yeah, like I know what I want to do. It just feels that way from the very beginning. And it really worked for me. So I plan on seeing it again. I will give it a strong 4 stars. Not willing to say like favorite movie of the year yet or anything. That's going to take like probably going to have to take a couple rewatches. But I really liked it. I'm a fan. I'm a fan for sure.
All right.
Excellent.
Yeah. That's I mean, that's fair. This is a good movie that I just didn't enjoy. Right.
Yeah. And again, just kudos to the sound. I want to see it in Dolby or something with a really, really high end sound, because everything from the music, the score. I liked when she was like listening to records in the house, like the aesthetic of the house, like worked for me. But then, yeah, man, just everything with the alien, like the noises of the people in it as it passes over, when it took up the horse, like that horse noise as it's like taking the horse into the cloud, like, man.
Well, and when it starts to like click towards the end, or it
starts to make just
that was straight Arrival for me. I was like, oh, this is just the Arrival monsters, but dangerous. Like,
but
and
right. Much more carnivorous. So very bold and strong 4 for me. And is there anything else anyone wants to say?
That's it for me.
All right, Adam, I think it's your turn to put a wrap on the show.
I can do the stuff, Adam, since you're doing the quote.
I'll take us out.
All right, Adam on the quote, Nate on the stuff.
Everybody in this family needs to just calm down and eat some fruit or something.